statements made in this presentation, which are not statements of historical fact, are forward-looking statements based upon current expectations. Actual results could differ materially from those projected due to a number of factors, including those referenced in VMware's most recent SEC filings on Forms 10Q, 10K, and 8K. Thank you.
So the biggest problem we're looking at in performance management is actually quite simple in the sense that it's what exactly is a performance problem. If you look at any modern data center, you have millions of different stats coming in, all sorts of events. And how does an administrator know what's actually a problem, something that they should pay attention to, versus just noise and something that they don't want to care about?
So the problem that we're really passionate about solving at the moment is how we make kind of these enterprise applications really take advantage of all of the advances we've had in the infrastructure layer, so sort of the elastic provisioning and the hybrid cloud scenarios, etc. What does it mean to build an enterprise application that works well in a PaaS environment?
For customers, right now, databases seem to be this thing that involves a lot of complexity, maybe some magic, maybe some thorny process issues, takes a long time to get them set up, backed up, performing properly, and turns out we can automate all of that on the vSphere platform and provide the best way to run databases on vSphere, plus make it a lot more automatic, quick, and easy than it's been before.
File sharing tools are not new. You've got the Z drives, you've got the FTP sites, and more recently, SharePoint. But there's an acute impedance mismatch problem between these legacy tools and the new generation of devices and apps. So Octopus aspires to be the fabric that links content to devices and to people.
One area that we are heavily focused on addressing multi-tenancy in the large data centers. Other area that we are spending a lot of time on is addressing the network services scalability, both in terms of the scale, performance, and efficiency.
What we have been doing over the years, it has been growing virtual machines from something that was a very small thing to something that's a very large and powerful thing today. And that trend is what I'm still excited about working on. We need to take virtual machines further forward so that essentially any workload can be put in a virtual machine and be expected to run exceptionally well out of the box with no need for tuning. It should just work, and it should just work well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Herrod.
Hey, good morning. I love that opening video with all the engineers. I love it should just work and work well. And that's why it's really a privilege to work with all the engineers at VMware. All of us are excited to be in the middle of a big revolution here, and that's why we're here. And to be honest, we're not normal. First of all, it's 8 a.m. in Las Vegas, and look at the crowd we have here. That in itself is not normal. But if you look at the 20,000 hands-on labs that we're doing, people wearing Monster VM t-shirts, tweet-ups, vMug meetings. I heard about the V-Run of Doom and even something called Vodgeball, which I have no idea what that actually is. But what's interesting is that there's a passion going on among everyone here, and that's this passion about the impact and the opportunity ahead with virtualization and the move to cloud computing. So yesterday we got to see how the cloud is real. We got to see how it's changing all the different facets as Paul walked us through existing worlds and the future world, from the data center to how we write applications to how we ultimately consume those applications that we create. Now today's about the technology behind those changes and how VMware and our partners are thinking about this revolution. The products and technologies we go through are going to help you realize the promise of cloud computing. And I want to do a quick caveat right up front, which is we have literally 4,000 engineers and so many different products going on right now. I had to do very careful selection of which one we would go into. So I'm sure I'll offend and omit some really good stuff. But I want to highlight some of the major ones and then make sure you can see the rest of what's going on in the breakout sessions. So let's just dive right into this. Okay, so I thought also, rather than use the traditional PowerPoint, it might be fun to have a little more engineering feel here. So the whole talk will be done in strictly Post-it notes and a whiteboard. And I'm told that the smell of whiteboard will come into this auditorium shortly, wake you up a little bit. So let's start with where we're all coming from. And this is a pretty important thing to just start with. We've come from a world traditionally of managing individual servers and thinking about the individual desktops that access the applications on those servers. But the world has changed, and today it's about two different concepts at the core. The first one is around moving from individual servers to services. That is what the cloud is all about. We want to manage services, not individual servers. And the other is the people that they're destined for. We want to be thinking about people and not the devices. This is a fundamentally different way of thinking of IT. And I think it's most appropriate to start by the people, those of us here and around the world that are using IT services. So let's play this out a little bit. We want the people to be thought of as a first-tier individual who is accessing IT. And the way that we want this to actually play out, sorry, I'm having a clicker issue here, is to think about what the user actually wants. And this is fairly, thanks very much. CTO should be able to work a clicker. That's a good rule. This transition to the post-PC world is something that we're all familiar, and a lot of us in this room are actually living. And it's fairly obvious and something we've talked about right now. It's about using all of our devices, not just the desktop, which is not a metaphor that holds anymore. It's also about getting universal access to our environment. From wherever we happen to be, we should be able to get access to our applications and our data. And last but not least is what we've come to expect from our IT department. We're actually at home right now using things like Netflix and iTunes and helping ourselves to the technology that we want, and we have very high expectations. So again, I wanted to highlight this as a fairly obvious thing going on here. Nice acronym. This is very easy to talk about, though, and a lot of people are talking about this new world. It's very hard to deliver, and that's what I think is profound. So I thought I'd start things off with just a quick video showing how we're looking at the VMware portfolio to deliver the post-PC era. So let's take a quick look here.
The way we work is always evolving, from the traditional desk to the personal computer. While the PC era made the individual more productive, the more we focused on documents, the less we connected. Now, the way we work is fundamentally evolving again. People are saying, let's collaborate in real time, from anywhere, on any device. And it's up to IT to help make that happen. They can now liberate our tools and files from the document-centric world of the PC era and bring them all together into a new world of mobility and collaboration. The way we see it, the technology we use in our personal world should define our business world as well, where it's no longer about provisioning machines, but about giving people the tools, data, and permissions they need to succeed, so they can get back to collaborating in real time in what is now the connected enterprise. All the while, IT is in control of the entire platform and has become a strategic service provider, empowering people to self-serve their own IT needs from any device, from anywhere, automatically. In the connected enterprise, people dictate the work style. They connect in real time. Entire teams are kept up to date with shared work streams. Tools are optimized and accessed across different devices, regardless of platform. And informed decisions are made and communicated as they happen. In the connected enterprise, we return to collaboration, the way we are designed to work. IT, well, they made it all possible, allowing us to engage like never before. and embrace the new era of organizational productivity, leaving IT free to create, innovate, and yes, even take vacations.
So that's just a quick high-level look from a marketing standpoint on how these products are come together. But I want to go into now is how we actually go in and deliver the services and the products themselves. And again, it should be all about people, but the concept we work with today when we manage the desktop is a desktop computer. And as we've talked about several times, the metaphor doesn't hold anymore. There's not one place that I go, there's not one machine that I go to. So it should really be about the applications and the data that are on that desktop. I want to get access to specific apps that I want, and I want my data wherever I happen to be. And as we've also talked about, it's not just about those Windows applications. It's also about the enterprise applications that I use every day as I'm working with my company. And what's more, the rise of SaaS and mobile applications are happening everywhere right now. Whether they're delivered from inside your own data center or whether you're getting them from a public cloud, these are the types of applications that I want to have access to. So let's talk about how we get all of our applications and all of our data together in a way that makes sense in this new world. There are three pillars that I want to go through with our products and technologies here that show how we transition from where we are today to where we want to head. The thing we need to start with is simplifying the existing world, and this means extracting applications data from the silos that they live in today. They shouldn't be out in individual machines. You should extract them, make them more usable. Once you've extracted them, we have a really good chance at doing management in a new way. We can actually begin to treat things in a common way with common policy. This is where we can begin to treat all of the applications the same and make sure the data is following the same thing. And as you'll hear several times today, this is where you begin to assign policy based on humans rather than on devices themselves. And last but certainly not least is what happens once you've extracted them and began to manage them, which is how do I connect them ultimately to the end user. Again, all of us understand this. We want to have access to our apps and data wherever we happen to be. So now let's go through how we're actually going to go ahead and make this happen. So we're going to go through a series of steps here, really going through the products that are here. And the first thing that we always talk about is how do we begin by making Windows more manageable and more accessible. This has been the focus of VMware View, and this is the focus of VDI. If we can encapsulate this desktop in a more manageable form and break its ties to specific pieces of hardware, that's going to give us a better chance of delivering it as a service, and it's going to make it more manageable and more secure. But you don't always want a full Windows desktop. Sometimes you just want those applications. And that's also what we've been focusing on in something called ThinApp here. We want to be able to extract applications from Windows and make them accessible just like you might have other applications accessible. That's the second phase of what we're really focused on now, which is creating a common application catalog service, a central place where all of us go, and this is very analogous to what we're doing in our consumer life right now. I should go to one place and get access to SaaS apps, enterprise apps, and Windows applications, and choose the ones that I want when I want them. And then the last silo that we're going to talk about today for the first time is how we begin to think about data coming out of our desktops. This is not only one of the toughest silos to break into, but it's also something that causes a lot of inconvenience for users. And for IT, this is one of the most security-conscious areas that they need to focus on. Once we've extracted these applications and the data into services, then we can focus on how we're actually going to broker them out to people. And that's the goal of this unified service broker concept that I'll be going into. This should be the one place that matches up applications and data with users. And I'll say it one more time, the policy that you put in place around these apps and data should be assigned to a user, not to a specific device. And then last, and again, what makes people happy to be using IT is when we ultimately connect to them. And as you'll see, we have a lot of different devices that want to get access to those apps and data, and we need to make them easy to use. And most importantly, we want to have users help themselves. So let's go into this now. The first phase that I want to talk to is around making the desktop service itself. Sorry about this. Let's see it in action, though, from an IT perspective. And just as we did last year at VMworld, I'm going to show you the world of the IT administrator, and then I'm going to show you the world of the user. And these two are both important experiences, but we need to decouple them from each other. So an example I'm going to walk through during the course of this morning is a medium-sized company. We're going to call them Virtual Insurance. And they're a company that's not unlike a lot of the medium ones that are using virtualization and looking at cloud computing today. A couple of thousand employees. They have a number of challenges that they're facing. They need to watch their money. They have business process outsourcing. And they have a mobile workforce, a team that needs to be out in the field as much as they need to be in the office. So I'm going to first shift and show you what's going on with View 5, which is the new release we've just announced. And again, this is from an IT perspective. I'm an administrator, and I want to be able to create a pool of desktops for my users. And what I'm able to do with a very simple wizard is go in and configure that pool of desktops. I want to set a lot of different characteristics about it. In this case, I'm going to create a non-persistent pool, and I'm going to have 1,000 desktops, which I've just highlighted here. The goal is to do a very simple wizard to set it up, and then click Go, and then have automation happen in the background. So what it's doing in front of you right now is provisioning 1,000 desktops. Now we're using a lot of the capabilities in the vSphere platform to make that as efficient as possible. In this case, it's using something called linked clones, which is a way of using your storage more efficiently. In turn, it's also letting you make your storage be very quick in how it responds to these requests. So if I click refresh right now, you're going to see in just this short amount of time, we've already created 8 desktops in this pool that are ready for consumption. And in about an hour, if we were to watch this, it would get up to the full 1,000. And so what we've done here is, proactively, IT has created a pool of desktops that I can offer up to my new employees, or I could offer up to companies that are contracting with virtual insurance. So that's a very quick look at the administrative side of how easy it is to provision desktops in the first place. The next thing I want to show you, though, is something that's a little bit new. We're thinking a lot of times that sometimes you do want a full Windows desktop, but many times you don't. You want just the applications without the heavy footprint of a full operating system. And this is what application virtualization is focused on, and this is what our ThinApp product line focuses on. Now, there's something I want to show you cool today that's called ThinApp Factory. And what this does is automate the process of extracting Windows applications from the OS and makes them ready to assign just like any other application rather than as a full desktop. And what's more, it does so in an automated way, and it constantly tracks the sources of these applications and can update them whenever a patch or some other change occurs. So very neat way of putting this into there. And all of this is going to go into the same catalog and be managed the same way as Horizon, which we ship today. Horizon Application Manager is a portal that we have where you can today access your enterprise and your SaaS applications. And as you know, we tie this into your authentication system that you have on premise. This is a way that you can authenticate people to their applications in the first place. But the next big horizon for Horizon is to add in both Windows applications and mobile applications. So what I want to do now is show how we would combine Project ThinApp Factory with Horizon to begin making it a universal catalog service. So here you're looking at the administrative screen for Horizon. Again, I'm still the IT administrator at Virtual Insurance. I have a list of applications here, and these are all SaaS applications that you might recognize. These are things that users can now choose from a catalog and log into using their corporate credentials. But what I want to do now is look how I might add a new type of system here. I'm going to click on ThinApp Factory. So I'm showing this for the first time, an administrative portal for how we can automate the process of creating ThinApps. In this case, I'm actually going to first say, what are the possible applications out there that I want to create for this catalog? And I can actually go here and I can choose a source of files. And what it's going to do is automatically scan those files for MSIs, Windows installers, executables, ISOs, and other sources of these Windows applications. So now it's gone out and found these possible Windows applications that I could bubble up in a ThinApp bubble and prepare to put in the catalog. So now let's select all of these. And let's start the process of automatically creating the ThinApps here. So we're going to click it here. You should see an alert after you set the configurations. And it should start the process right now of creating ThinApps from this source of information. It's actually doing some really cool stuff behind the scenes. When needed, it might fire up a virtual machine, install the Windows application there, and track how it works. It's a lot of the technology behind ThinApp and how it actually does this in a nice way. So we're doing that in an automated fashion. So now what you can see is that we've finished up the conversion of a lot of these applications. And these are now candidates. Once they finish, these are going to be the candidates that I can put into Horizon in this new common app catalog. So let's see them come up here. So now these are different applications that I can provide and say that I would like users at Virtual Insurance to have access to one of these. So now let's go ahead and publish this into our catalog. And then I want to go back over and look how I can begin to assign these to folks. So this is that same catalog we were looking at the start, where today you're seeing SaaS and enterprise applications. Tomorrow you can just as easily put your Windows applications into that same place. And now this is going to be a common place for brokering and offering up applications. As you'll hear in a little bit, we'll also be able to put mobile applications that have something that downloads to your phone in this space. And we're also able to broker access to things that aren't VMware properties. such as XenApp or RDS. This is a common brokerage for all sorts of applications that you might want to have access to. All right, let's go ahead and move forward here then. Now, the next part of this demo is to show exactly what I mean by assigning to users and groups rather than devices. Here I'm using a scan of the Active Directory settings to find a set of users that are at the company. And what I want to do now is focus on our claims adjusters. At a group level policy, these are the applications that I'd like to give access to my claims adjusters. And I have all these existing applications, and now I'm going to add another one that is going to be a candidate for them to choose on their own. Now, this is kind of neat and a little bit subtle. When you're actually putting it into a catalog, you can have a couple of settings on these applications. In this case, I can say it's automatically provisioned, and the other I could say is user activated. What this really means is you might not actually incur the licensing charge, or you might not actually push it out there until the user tries to access it for the first time. So this is just another way of tracking and making a very optimal decision here. So just like that, we've posted it, and now we're going to have a good chance of showing you what the user looks like when they now have a suite of applications from a common catalog service. All right, here we go. Now, the next thing I want to talk about for the first time in our context is data. And as we all talked about earlier on, this is an inconvenience to a lot of us. This is also one of the biggest security challenges for IT as a whole. So I thought it'd be a good time to do a quick poll of the audience. How many of you out there are using Dropbox today? Wow. Now, here's a trick question. How many of you are supposed to be using Dropbox today? Not as many answers. What a great solution it is. It's a very easy way to get file sync and sharing going on a personal basis. But the challenge is that it is out of the control of IT, and they have no way of putting policy and control on top of it. Sometimes that's actually what you want. But there's a way to do it in a way that helps the user and a way that it helps IT as they're trying to struggle with the challenges they have. So I'm very happy today to talk about for the first time something we have called Project Octopus. And Project Octopus is around providing a Dropbox service for the enterprise. So let's switch back over to our demo here, and I want to show you an early look at what we're doing with this. So again, now we're back to a common management console, and here we're now going to click on the tab that says Octopus Manager. It should look very familiar, and again, I want to do policies that are based on users and groups rather than devices. In this case, I'm going to choose one of our users. We'll be seeing Vittorio in a little bit. And now, just like anything else, I want to give some certain privilege to him around using this sharing service. So let's go up and set a policy now. This service is about allowing you to certainly keep your own files intact and make sure that you have access to them on your phone or on your desktop or on your Mac, wherever you might be. But it's also about sharing them with others in a very, very simple way. But what I want to have is enterprise controls over that sharing. So in this case, I'm going to be able to say, when should these files disappear from being shared with someone else? I'm going to put it at 21 days. And then I also want to say the domains that I'm allowing this particular user to share files with are these. So very simple way to set up a sharing policy and put an expiration date in place. So there's a rich set of policies that we'll have around this file sync and share service that we'll go into as the day unfolds. But what I also wanted to call out is this a solution, like many of the ones that VMware is focused on, that can be delivered via the public cloud or via the private cloud. We see a lot of benefits to having your data only reside in your own data center, and there are a lot of reasons why you might want it to have in a public data center. And this solution will apply to both of those. So very fired up about Project Octopus. You're going to see this from a user side in just a moment. So that was a quick look at the IT administrator side of the world. What you saw me do is go through a process of extracting applications, creating a common catalog where all those apps, Enterprise, SaaS, and Windows, could go. And I've ultimately created a well-managed service for desktops, apps, and data. But the key thing here is that I've given the users up front these capabilities, and then I get out of the way. I don't want to be a trouble ticket that's filed before they get access to something that I knew up front was going to be okay. It's about allowing IT to set it up and then forget it, knowing it's going to be in place. So this is the fun part. Now I want to return to virtual insurance, but now we're going to do a day in the life of one of these claims adjusters. So I'd like to welcome to stage now Vittorio, who is not a professional actor. He's actually product manager for the end-user computing space. And as you'll find out, I think he's also Italian. So take it, Vittorio.
How exciting. My first day on a new job. At orientation, they told me that I can just sit down in any of these cubes and get my job done. So let's do just that. Let me log in. What is this? There's no computer here. It's just a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. It's like some sort of like mainframe or something. Let's connect. Oh, that's Windows 7. I know my way around Windows 7. I should be fine. Oh, there's my desktop. What's in my application here? Oh, I see. These are all the applications that I need to get my job done. So at orientation, they told me that I can use this application at Virtual Insurance called SocialCast that allows me to collaborate with my colleagues. So I wonder what that is. Let's try the application catalog here. Oh, pretty cool. So I have one place where I have my enterprise apps, my Windows apps, and I guess these are mobile apps. Oh, there is SocialCast. Well, let's activate it. That's easy enough. Oh, it's installing. You have a new application on your desktop. Oh, so this is not just one of those kiosk type of computer. I can actually install my application and make it my own. That's awesome. What's in my docs here? Ooh, I guess they populated my files and folders with some of the documents I need. That's the crash reports. Oh, right. Those are the forms I need when I'm on the road settling claims. That's very good. I guess I just hit the road now and get some work done. But hold on a second. How do I access my files and my applications, my email when I'm on the road? They said that I can just go and activate my phone. I think I saw something in the App Store there. Yeah, I think it must be under account. Let me see that. That's right. Mobile Android. That's exactly what I have, a brand new LG phone that runs Android. Let me just activate that. That looks easy enough. Yeah, I'm very sure I want to activate this. What's this? A text message from Virtual Insurance Company. I guess they want me to install this application. Oh, there it is. There's my brand new phone. I customized it, my application. I got my Angry Birds application to play, and my 2 Angry Birds at home, right there. What is this new thing here? Virtual Insurance phone? Whoa! What just happened? What happened to my phone? It's like I have a brand new one, and I have my apps and my data. Let's check it out. My apps. There is SocialCast that I just installed on my desktop, and here's all the other applications. So I guess IT set it up so that the applications are following me on the devices that I use. That's pretty sweet. Let me go back. And there's my docs, my folder, right there, my claim, and the forms are there as well. Wow. They told me that this IT rocks, but this is like magic. Let me go back now. But hold on a second. What happened to my family? Or as they will say, what happened to the family? Hold on. What is my home here? I click on that. Oh, there they are, the Angry Birds. So I guess I have my personal stuff in one phone, and then have this like magic phone with all my enterprise application, the things I need when I work for Virtual Insurance Company. And I guess I can just click back and forth. Oh my God, this is pretty sweet. I am loving this. Well, I guess I have no excuses now. I need to hit the road and get some work done.
It's really great to see Vittorio overcome his shyness and really come out here. This is perfect. So I want to walk through what we just saw here again from the user side of things. And we walked through a couple of things. The first was VMware View 5. And the key thing here is that he walked up to any terminal and he was able to get access to his virtual desktop. He didn't file a ticket. He simply logged in, and there it was. He was using a thin terminal in this case to get access to it. Something you didn't see behind the scenes is that we now have virtual profiles which allows Vittorio to customize it by adding additional settings, maybe putting pictures of his family up there, having those applications from the app catalog. And virtual profiles allow you to do this very efficiently, where you can keep common disk images, but really customize it for each user. Then the second thing you saw was Horizon, and Horizon allowed him to go access to new applications. It simply said, my applications, went into a web page, and there they were. In that case, he chose SocialCast, and what you also saw is that it was immediately pushed out to his desktop as an icon. Didn't have to do anything but choose that. After that, you saw Horizon Mobile in action, and this is a really cool product that I've personally been tracking for a long time. Some of you have seen me talking about it as MVP in the past. It's now officially called Horizon Mobile, and what he was able to do in this case is the exact use case we're hearing from so many people right now. They want to be able to go buy their own device and bring it in, and they want to have whatever cool new device they happen to have. What happened in this case is that over the airwaves, he simply gave his phone number to IT, and they pushed a work phone onto his environment, completely encapsulated, and that part of the phone was managed by IT. But as you saw, he didn't lose his family. The family stayed separate with all of his applications and data. Work life, home life, completely separated, but on one device. One managed, one not. So we previously announced a great strategic partnership with LG, and you saw that in action here. I'm happy to announce today also that we've started a strategic partnership with Samsung to bring the same solution to their Android devices. And this is ramping quickly. You're going to see a lot of great announcements in the coming months on additional partnerships and the go-to-market plans here. And then the last part that you saw here was the user view of Project Octopus. In this case, he had a simple folder that said My Documents. And by the way, that same folder was on his phone, and it was on his Windows desktop. And he went in there, and it was pre-populated with particular files, Excel files in this case, that he wanted to share and be used from the company's standpoint. If he were to actually create a new file and put it in that folder, it would show up automatically on the other side in his phone device. So this is exactly what we're hearing as a big use case. I have to say I'm using this personally at work for things like PowerPoint, things like my status reports, really a great solution. Okay, so now I want to talk about another use case. And we didn't hire Vittorio to sit at his desk all day. He's a claims adjuster. He should be out on the road, living a mobile life like the rest of us. So we're going to visit him one more time in the field, hard at work as a claims adjuster.
Hey, Mario. Yeah, this is me. You won't believe what happened to me today. So get this. First day on the job, first claim I need to adjust, and guess what it is? Are you ready for this? It's a Ford Pinto crashing into a Ferrari. No, don't be... that's what I thought, but it's not too bad. It's not a real Ferrari. Yeah, it's yellow. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I gotta go. Okay, bye. Okay, I can't wait to see what my colleagues are saying about this on SocialCast. Let me go there. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I know. The side mirror of that Ferrari is worth more than a Pinto. If you ask me, I will drive a Fiat before I drive a Pinto, but that's okay. So, what is this? Oh, so we are using a different form to sell this luxury car type of claims. I wonder what that is. Oh, what is this notification? Oh, somebody shared it with me. Let me view it. Oh, this looks familiar. These are the files that I had on my Android and on my desk, and they're following me on my iPad too. That's pretty sweet. But what is this? This is an Excel file. How do I edit an Excel file on an iPad? Let me see. Edit with AppBlast? What is this? What's going on? Whoa! Is this really Excel, the Windows version running on my iPad? And I didn't have to install any application. So they are really right about this IT company here. The IT in my company, they really rock. I guess I can just edit this right here, save it, and be done. Oh man, that's pretty sweet. So let me now call the call center to make sure I'm doing this right. It is my first one. I better do it by the book.
Thank you for calling. This is Betty. How may I help you? Hi, Betty. This is Vittorio Virengo. Can you please pull the latest quote from my file, the Ferrari one?
Yes, Vittorio, let me look that up. Okay, I've got it right here in front of me.
Oh, perfect. Can you please check to see if parts and prices match? You know, this is my first claim, and it is a Ferrari, so I don't really want to mess it up.
Totally understand. Let me look that up right now. Okay, I've got the car here in front of me. I'm just checking for the part. Okay. Got it. Now let me just check the prices again. Yes, everything looks fine. Expensive, but fine.
I know, what do you expect? It's the best car in the whole world. Well, thank you, Betty. You have a nice day now.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Whew, that was a productive day of work. I love this company. I love IT. It's time to go home to my Angry Birds.
Great, thanks, Vittorio. So that was a view of how a mobile user will interact with IT in the post-PC era. And again, I want to highlight a few of the things that we just walked through here. So again, we saw Project Octopus from the user perspective. In this case, we saw he was on an iPad and the files were delivered directly to him, including on demand when one of the users that he was talking with on Socialcast decided he needed a special form. That's just going to be a great way people get access to their files everywhere. And again, this was done with proper IT control behind it. The next thing we saw is incredibly cool, and this is something in the labs that we're just now showing for the first time, called App Blast. What you saw him doing was run Excel in his browser, no plugins, and this was using standard HTML primitives. We found a way to deliver applications of any sort to any client that speaks HTML5. Could be any app whatsoever, Visio, Photoshop. It could even be a Mac or a Linux app if you want one of those delivered to you. And again, delivered to any HTML5 client. This is a really killer project in the labs, and you're going to see a number of demonstrations of this as we head forward. I think it's quite disruptive. Then we switched over to the call center. In this case, we were really highlighting some of the big advances in View 5, mostly around user experience. So you're watching a few things there. You saw unified communications, which is really coming into its own with View 5. It's able to be delivered at great video conferencing, great voice quality, and we're doing this with a number of partners today. The astute user might have seen the Arrow user interface also going on in Windows 7, which looks great in View 5. And then you saw the Ferrari moving around in circles, which really highlights how we're able to handle 3D in a great way over the network. That was a red Ferrari. I don't know if you noticed that, but still. And what's more, a call center is often over a wide area network. In this case, it was also highlighting what we're able to do. We've made major advances in delivering a great user experience over the WAN, using up to 75% less bandwidth than we have in previous versions. And then the astute viewer, you actually notice this. Vittorio left his phone at the cafe. And this is exactly one of the key use cases we want to enable. With Horizon Mobile, IT can actually go now and automatically wipe the work phone from his device. Anything that was the work property, all those files and applications, gone. But his family and his Angry Birds and whatever else is there is still there, in case he comes back and gets it. So this is one way we're going to give more IT control, as they have a work and a home phone on one device. Now, we've been talking a lot about connecting, and connecting is certainly about devices and giving me access to my apps and data, but it's also about connecting us to our colleagues. This is why VMware bought Socialcast, and this is why we're looking at collaborative apps as really canonical apps of the future. They're going to be headed to a world where they're multi-device and very collaborative. And you saw in this case, Vittorio was able to reach out and get information he might not have been able to get in traditional methods. And that's really the point behind these new applications. When we're better connected with one another, ultimately we're all going to work better. So I've taken you through a number of scenarios here, taking you through how virtual insurance from an IT perspective and from a user perspective can begin to think about the post-PC era. Horizon is at the very core of this, as the broker between apps and data of all sorts and the user, not the device. And again, there are three pillars that I really want to highlight and that you'll hear throughout the conference. The first is really to simplify things by extracting and forklifting apps and data from their silos where they are today into a common app catalog. The second is to bring them into a common management platform where you can create policies that apply across all your applications, not doing it different ways wherever you might want to be. And last but not least is how do we connect the user ultimately with whatever device and whatever location they happen to be in. I have to say I'm actually using most of this at work now, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. As Vittorio said, I love this IT department. It's very cool. Now, we've been talking a lot about end users and how they access IT. But none of this is possible without a robust infrastructure that's backing it. And in fact, if you think about it a little bit, a great user experience on the device that you're accessing often means that there's even more work going on behind the scenes to make it hold. And that is the next topic for this morning, that robust infrastructure. But I also want to start out by saying that even if we're IT professionals, it means we are people too, and we deserve a great user experience. So we've been bringing some of our fun and our mobile DNA into the data center management space as well. We have a number of clients for phones and iPads, and I actually have been having a lot of fun with the vSphere client for iPad, literally thousands of downloads, and the upcoming version is way cool, so I wanted to share it with you here for a moment. So if you could cut over to the iPad picture real quick. So this is a place you've been able to go and track your servers if you happen to be on the road, easily look at how they're doing. But what you can do now is really cool. vMotion is enabled on the iPad, and I got to tell you, if ever there were a user interface designed for doing a vMotion, this is it. So you move your virtual machine up to the top, and you literally slide it from one side to the other. You couldn't quite hear the sound effect. Pretty fun. And instantly that triggers a vMotion, allowing you to move your virtual machines from one host to the other. So this is kind of fun to work with. And on a serious note, this is allowing administrators to get access to their infrastructure wherever they are and be able to handle it as efficiently as possible. So one prediction that I am quite sure about is that those users who have an iPad client will be doing more vMotions than those that don't. True prediction. But let's start on a more serious note with the robust infrastructure behind it. And no surprise that we're going to spend a lot of time on vSphere 5, which just went into general availability last week. This was a very impressive release, as Paul highlighted yesterday. More than 1 million engineering hours, more than 2 million QA hours, and more than 200 new features and capabilities. What I like about vSphere 5 is the quote that started off this whole keynote as well, which is, "It should just work, and it should work well." Now, this continues a tradition we have of really pushing first out into the industry, a lot of new innovations. And most of the ones that we've already pushed out have yet to be replicated by any other virtualization platform. But we're really continuing to drive things forward aggressively here, shipping a number of new firsts. And as Paul said, I think he said first time in his career, these came out on spec and also on time, which is just a great accomplishment by the engineering team. We're very proud of what they did. So I'm going to go into a lot of these first, but what I want to start it with is saying innovation is great, but it's about making it accessible. You want to make this innovation easy to adopt, and you want to make it easy to use. So I'm going to talk about that for a moment here by first saying how we get vSphere out to customers in the first place. And what's more, we need to get it out to customers large and small. SMBs have been a particular focus for us, small and medium businesses. They have enterprise-class needs, but they don't have enterprise-sized budgets or IT departments. And as I've heard it phrased before, they have champagne tastes, but they have a beer budget. So we really wanted to focus on that with vSphere, and I want to show you two things on that front right now. The first, Paul briefly talked about yesterday, which is called VMware Go. This is a hosted service. You literally log into a browser, even if you've never heard about virtualization in the first place. It's going to help you discover any servers and the equipment that you have in your small business. It's going to be able to deploy ESX automatically and push it out to those servers. And then as you'll see, we're also able to add some very simple management services, all from the confines of a browser and really designed for people just getting started for the first time. The second thing that I want to highlight here is the vSphere storage appliance. And in this case, this is a way that we want to bring the benefits of shared storage into very small companies that have not used it before. And to do that, we need to make it very affordable and dead simple to use. And as you'll see in a moment, this is a really cool technology that we're delivering with vSphere 5. So at this point, I want to show a quick demo of VMware Go and the vSphere storage appliance. So welcome Bruce to stage.
Steve, as we know, not everybody has time in their day to become a virtualization expert. So we're going to give a quick demonstration of how vSphere Go helps people get started from an existing Windows server converting into an ESXi server. Real simple process here. Go is a web-based service, and we start off by scanning a range of IPs in our existing infrastructure. Go will reach out, find which machines are suitable as virtualization hosts. In this case, we found 2 out of our range of 12. And then we can very quickly and easily have Go automatically reach out to one of these machines and install vSphere for us. We just put in machine name, what we want the machine to be called, and Go reaches out to the machine, checks some information, comes back, and it's going to ask us one final question here, which is what do we want the password to be after the installation is complete. We send it on its way, and that's all we have to do to convert an existing Windows server into an ESXi server using Go.
Yeah, so you saw Bruce just discover some servers in the small medium business and instantly deploy vSphere to it. You want to talk a little bit about the management that you can do after you have that installed?
Absolutely. Go has additional capabilities than what you saw here. It has the ability to add virtual machines into these ESXi servers for us automatically. It can also do patch management, hardware and software inventory, and there's also some help desk functionality.
Cool. So you're going to hear a lot more about VMware Go headed forward. Check it out. You can go to the website very easily. Now let's switch over and show them the vSphere storage appliance.
Sure thing. vSphere storage appliance is designed to make it very easy for people to get all the benefits of enterprise-class virtualization without having to have traditional shared storage. As you know, Steve, when we start out with individual hosts, each of those hosts typically has local storage, which is not available to all the other machines, and therefore you can't have some of the advanced features in vSphere like HA, vMotion, and DRS. But with VSA, we actually run a vSphere storage appliance, which is a virtual machine on each of the hosts, and each VSA presents the local storage out to the entire cluster as shared storage.
So it'll look like just another data store if people are used to using the VI console.
You got it exactly. So then you do get all your advanced functionality, and there's an additional benefit, and that is resilience. Each of these VSAs writes its information to both a primary and a secondary data store, so that if anything unexpected happens to any single data store, there's no interruption to the service, there's no interruption to the storage, and the system just goes on running.
Great, very cool. Thanks, Bruce. So again, the idea here was with VMware Go to make it very easy to discover, deploy, and begin to manage very small vSphere environments. And then with the vSphere storage appliance, we make it very simple to create shared storage out of a number of drives that are sitting in your local servers. And they're clustered in a way that makes them more available, and most importantly, to a small company, it enables things like HA. They need this availability as much as anyone else. Now, vSphere is also about making it more accessible to larger environments, and thinking about these environments, especially around cloud computing, that grow and shrink with the demand. So today, when you go out and you install vSphere, you have to do it in a very manual process. You grab the image, you put it on the server, and you configure it. What I'm happy to do with vSphere 5 is have the capability of something called auto-deploy. And auto-deploy is about automating this process. For those of you that work with it, it's using something called Pixie, which allows a server to wake up, it asks for its image, and it asks for its configuration, automatically installs it, and is ready to go. So this is certainly great for when you want to bring an environment up and running quickly, but behind the scenes, it's extremely important for doing things like compliance checks, where you want to make sure that every one of these servers are on the most up-to-date version of the image that IT has approved, and that they have the exact same configuration that you'd like them to have. So ultimately, this is around easier, faster, compliant deployment of vSphere. So that's a quick look at how we're making these more accessible and getting vSphere out to more places. But we should never forget that all of infrastructure is about running applications and delivering the benefits of those applications. And on this front, vSphere 5 is really in great shape. And it's really ready for your biggest and most critical applications. So, one of the things that we do with all of the customers is track very carefully how they're moving forward with business-critical applications. This graph shows a survey that we do of the customers quite regularly, where they say what percentage of all of these instances are virtualized. And on the bottom, you can see this is their SAP deployments, their Oracle database, Exchange, and SharePoint, the things their business really falls upon and really relies on. And you can see that adoption is also accelerating. And why would that be? Well, it's because we're able to maintain the performance needs and give them what they need on that front while providing additional levels of availability and security. So what I want to do now is talk about performance. And one of the coolest things that I get to announce at VMworld 2011 is the biggest VM ever. Now, wait a second, I actually feel like I've been here somewhere before. And one of the coolest things I get to announce here at VMworld 2001 are the biggest VMs ever. 1 vCPU, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and an ESX server that can deliver 5,000 IOPS. I tell you, these VMs are going to be wicked. And one of the coolest things I get to announce here at VMworld 2006 are the biggest VMs ever. 4 virtual CPUs, 64 gigabytes of virtual RAM, and an ESX server that can deliver 100,000 IOPS. These VMs are going to be gangsta fat. Wow, wow. I haven't aged very much, which is kind of cool. No, but really, seriously, one of the coolest things that I get to announce is the biggest VM ever. We have 32 vCPUs, a terabyte of memory per virtual machine, and the underlying vSpheres really shine. Some great numbers, including 1 million IOPS that was just talked about today coming from a single host. And I'll tell you, these VMs are monster. Yes, I used this term at the kickoff, and I have to say it took on a life of its own. One of our engineers' kids drew something that they called Melvin, the monster VM. Here he is right now. Rumor is that he would be here. Hi. A quick picture. Thanks. Have a good one. So people liked him so much, we decided we'd bring him to VMworld, and he's available for pictures with all of you. He has some great T-shirts as well. On a more serious note, though, performance is really a focus, and we're not done by any stretch of the imagination. If you read just this morning some of the blogs that are coming up and some of the partner announcements are talking about amazing numbers. I read one just this morning, a 4-node cluster of vSpheres that are able to push 10 gigabytes per second. Gigabytes per second. And this is software FC over E, some great work we've been doing with EMC and Intel. And it's just one example of great raw performance that we have with vSphere. And we're also not done yet. We're going to continue to focus on getting those apps. When Carl was up yesterday with the customers, I actually took offense that he said there are a few apps that won't be candidates for virtualization. We have a number of engineers working right now on low latency applications, working on HPC, and I want to make it so that every possible application out there can run on top of vSphere. So raw performance is also great, but even more important for most business critical applications are performance guarantees. And in fact, it's about guarantees in the cloud across a number of fronts. You want to make sure that you have the performance, the availability, and the security guarantees. And this is really the way that we think about this at VMware. We want to have your application, and then you want to have a contract. As someone who's using this infrastructure, you should say, here's exactly what I expect of it. You then tie this policy or this contract to your virtual machine, and a truly intelligent virtual infrastructure should know what to do with it. It should be in charge of satisfying the contract and giving you the guarantee that it's in place. What's more, as we're really talking about cloud computing and looking at both private and public clouds, the user can't possibly know exactly what's there. So what we want to have the ability to do is set the policy, deploy the virtual machine, and then know that it's going to go to the right equipment underlying the private or the public cloud and make sure that it's in place. And just like we talked about IT wanting to do this, a user should be able to set up their policy and what they want and then forget it. It's up to the intelligent virtual infrastructure to satisfy that contract. So again, this is pretty easy to talk about. It's very, very difficult to do, and I want to show how we're doing this on a number of different fronts now. So let's go into the first type of guarantee that we're after here in our contract. Performance guarantees. Now this is something that comes out a lot when people are talking about public clouds. Existing public clouds make it very easy to get started. You can submit your virtual machine, you're up and running, but sometimes you get to a sort of buyer's remorse when you've been running for a while and new stuff is piling onto that server, and you're not getting that performance that you originally thought you would have. And Paul called this out yesterday as something that we call the noisy neighbor problem. And I thought since we're in Vegas, I could make a good analogy here, one that I've lived recently. This is like the guy sitting next to you at the blackjack table with 3 pinky rings, and he's yapping on about how cool he is. He's distracting me from getting done what I need to do. Card work. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but his blather keeps me from doing things just like a virtual machine that's getting out of control can keep another virtual machine from getting what it needs. What we ultimately have to do around performance guarantees is protect virtual machines from one another and give them exactly what their contract called for. And we have to do this on a number of fronts. Sorry, one more. As a company, we've long focused on the CPU and the memory side of this, making it easy to set limits and shares and things that many of you use today. And that allows you to make sure that you're getting those aspects of the system well handled and guaranteed. vSphere 5 has a major address on the next big challenge here, which is storage. We need to make sure that the I/O behavior of these virtual machines are just as protected and guaranteed as the CPU and memory. In many cases, that's even more important. So we focused on storage holistically in vSphere 5, and there are three things I want to highlight quickly. The first thing is just making it easier to treat your storage in a more consistent way. And this is something that we call pooling. We allow you to take all the different types of arrays that you have in place and create logical pools of them. You might have Tier 1 storage, which is your fiber channel arrays. They might have full disaster recovery. You might have Tier 3 storage that is intended to have a different cost profile. It might have the protection or the performance. But when I can create logical pools of these, I can have a better chance of choosing where they go in the first place. And that leads to the second major deliverable in vSphere 5, which is placement. One of the tough things that a lot of administrators of vSphere environments do today is really track different storage arrays, and they get involved and they choose where a virtual machine should be deployed when someone requests it. But as we talked about, we now have a policy that's associated with our virtual machine. It has some information about the guarantees I need on performance. It might say something around the level of availability that I want. And so a smart placement engine can now use that, and it can look at the different tiers of logical pools of storage and choose the one most appropriate. So this is a business-critical app that wants good disaster recovery and performance. I'm going to go to my Tier 1 storage. And then what you also saw there is it went within the storage pool, and it chose a specific array. It's doing this in a way that actually looks at the capacity available, what you need from your virtual machine, and what's available from the storage arrays that are in that pool. Now, I know for a fact a lot of you out there track this on spreadsheets today. I've seen a lot of these spreadsheets. What we're doing is getting rid of the spreadsheet and automatically choosing where things should go. And then the third phase of this attack on storage is what happens once things are already running within their pool. And this is something that has taken a lot of work from the VMware engineering group and is quite exciting, called storage DRS. In this case, we are tracking the behavior of all the virtual machines in this pool of storage, and we're tracking the available bandwidth of the arrays that make up this logical pool, and using storage vMotion, which we have been shipping for a while, we can migrate virtual machines from one back-end array to another with no disruption to the running application itself. And again, this is a way to allow the IT to set up the policies and then forget them. It can simply be done automatically with no manual intervention. So we also care about performance guarantees at a finer level of granularity. This notion of storage DRS takes place on the order of hours, and we're moving between arrays. But what about finer grain movements? And what about when you're sharing an array or only have one array? In this case, we need to worry about that same noisy neighbor problem. In this case, I'm showing virtual machines talking to an underlying array. And again, if I have this annoying virtual machine who's taking up a lot of storage bandwidth, I need to make sure that my VIP virtual machine, the one that I had a strict contract for, can get through. So we're very excited about vSphere 5 delivering something that we have called storage I/O control. This allows you, just like we've done with CPU and memory, to set minimums and shares for your virtual machines, but this time you're focused on the I/O bandwidth that they get to storage. We guarantee that sharing an individual array will be able to give you the bandwidth that you want there. This is a really great way of doing it so that you have the guarantee you get what you want. And it's also about networking as well. And what we've done in vSphere 5 is extend the same notion of fine-grained controls into the networking space. Again, exact same noisy neighbor problem. If a particular virtual machine starts using its network in a big way, it could restrict another virtual machine that's sharing that same infrastructure from getting what it needs. Network I/O control is different from vSphere 4 in that it works all the way up to the virtual machine. And I also want to call it, this is going on at the virtual machine level and in the hypervisor layer, as opposed to at the network protocol layer. And we need to do that to control things even when there are multiple virtual machines on one device. Now, we're really talking about networking. I want to take a moment and talk about something else big going on in this space. Let's step back a little bit and think about what the overall goal for virtualization in the first place is. We want a complete separation of the logical world from the physical implementation of it. This, in turn, what allows us to have great sharing, mobility of resources. And anything less than that will restrict the efficiency of the system and actually add complexity to the way we manage it. And we've made major progress across the industry on the compute side and on the storage side. And so now it's time for a very big focus on making networking fully virtualization aware. The physical network can still peek through and it can restrict you from doing some of the things that you want to do. Now, why is that? Well, there's a fundamental challenge that a lot of us have been dealing with for a long time now, and that is that the core notion in the network, IP addresses, refer to two things. On the one hand, it's an identity. It tells you who this server is. But on the other hand, it's actually a location. It tells you where it is. And this, in turn, is one of the challenges that we've been working on for a lot of years in a lot of different ways in this industry. But it's neat to step back and look at somewhere else where we've seen this challenge over time. If you think about it, we've had this notion of identity and location also showing up in the telephony space. Some of you might be too young to have known it, but there used to be physical phones in your house, and you would actually have a phone number that would ring that physical phone. It was actually your phone number, but it was also only ringing in your house. Well, obviously, we've moved forward now into the wireless industry, and all of us have phone numbers that aren't tied to specific devices in many cases. And in fact, they will ring us wherever we are in the world. And I think that's progress. You can get access to it anywhere. And that's the exact same thing that we want to do on the networking side of things. If we can fully separate identity from location, we'll have more VM mobility, simplicity, and automation. This is actually a key to doing multi-tenancy and some other traits that we really want to accomplish in cloud computing as well. And this is exactly the focus of a new thing that we have called VXLAN. This stands for Virtual Extensible LAN. And in short, it's a way of encapsulating L2 packets in L3. And this really means that these packets can be shifted around the internet and can hold when they're in place. It's designed to address some of the limitations with today's approaches, things like VLANs. And the end goal is to create logical, extensible overlay networks that can span any infrastructure. So there are a lot of use cases why you should care about this, both for inter-data center cases and even intra-data center cases. Things like disaster recovery solutions that don't require re-IPing, which we'll talk about in a little bit. More mobility among clusters, even when you have them set up logically in your data center. And even some of the use cases around cloud bursting can be made simpler if you separate identity from location. So, of course, we don't do this in isolation. We've developed VXLAN in collaboration with Cisco, a great partner, and several other industry leaders here. We all have a common goal. We want to do logical networks for the cloud era. And what's more, we need this to work with today's infrastructure. You can't get rid of everything that we have today. And as of today, we have submitted a spec to the IETF. If you're into reading IETF specs, this is the document for you. Our implementation itself is going to build on a lot of the existing technologies that we have, things like vSwitch and VDS and network I/O control. And I have to say I'm quite excited about where this is headed. This is one of the bigger steps in the overall virtualization journey that we started on 8 years ago. And when we do achieve this, I think we've virtualized all of the major pieces, and we can unleash the full power of cloud computing, which is ultimately around simplicity and getting rid of any of the boundaries that are keeping it from us today. So I encourage you to learn more about VXLAN. It's quite exciting. All right, my little segue of a segue. We were in performance, and performance is great, but only if the application keeps running. So we're going to spend a little time on availability now. And we've been focused on this for 10 years now. This is really one of the top reasons people virtualize. In fact, more and more I'm hearing cases where people don't even want to consolidate. They just wanted the added availability that comes from running on a virtualized infrastructure. And you need to really take an intensive look at how to provide availability. We have a chart like this that we track all the time in VMware engineering, where we think of all the different failures that can occur at the server level, at the network level, storage level. And then we think about those outages that are either planned, like an update that you need to do, or unplanned, like a disaster hitting you. So what we've been trying to do with HA and our multipathing and FT and all these capabilities is check off these different parts of the box. vSphere 5 has addressed a lot of these and done some major work on HA and FT's core underlying infrastructure in particular. But what I want to spend a moment on is some of the dramatic improvements in data centers. So let's take a moment to look at how we're attacking data center outages. Forward, please. Now, a lot of you are using something called Site Recovery Manager today. We call that SRM in the engineering group. I'm happy to announce the presence of vCenter Site Recovery Manager 5, which is a major advance in the way that we're doing disaster recovery. So first of all, why are people doing disaster recovery with virtualization in the first place? Traditionally, you've had to have two data centers and kept them looking exactly the same, many times the exact same hardware, firmware revision, and it's been very hard to keep them in sync. The way this has traditionally worked is you'll set up some form of replication between arrays, and you'll have some sort of checklist that you manually go through in case of emergency. What we were able to do with Site Recovery Manager in the first place is separate the physical implementation. We could abstract these applications so that you don't have to have the exact same amount of hardware on each side and certainly don't have the exact same type. And what's more, we can automate the steps that people need to do. What I'm excited about in SRM5, though, is that we've attacked two of the big challenges people have had in really bringing disaster recovery everywhere. So one thing we're announcing is the presence of vSphere replication. This is network-based replication of those storage and data drives that are behind the applications that you want to provide disaster recovery for. So of course we still work, and in many cases you want to use array-based replication, but if you can do something where the arrays on each side aren't necessarily the same, or you could do something for applications where you don't need the performance of that, this will ultimately allow you to bring disaster recovery to more of your infrastructure. Now the way it works is that in case of a disaster, or even when you're testing things, you'll take down the primary side, and in an automated way you'll bring up the secondary site. You're going to go through the ordering of which VMs need to come up first, you're going to have them talk to each other, and as we head forward, things like VXLAN, you won't even have to do some of the re-IPing process that's part of these challenges that you go through in disaster recovery today. What we're also adding in Site Recovery Manager 5, though, is the ability to do automated fail-back. This is something we haven't had before, and I guess we were always worried about getting over to the other side. But if you can get back to the other side, this helps some of the challenges when you're recovering, and it actually opens up some new use cases as well. Again, this is done in a completely automated way, and what's very important is it allows you to test your disaster recovery solution much more easily than you could in the past. Now, there's something else that we announced just this week, which is very interesting. What if I could actually use someone else's data center as my secondary site? 4 of our partners have announced disaster recovery to the cloud offerings today. They allow you to use the same console and do the same constructs you're used to, but rather than owning and maintaining your own secondary data center, you can now use theirs. I expect this to be one of the killer use cases for enterprises in the cloud, and you're going to see more and more news about this. You know, the other thing I've been seeing around this core solution of Site Recovery Manager is that it's definitely intended for disaster recovery, but more and more we're seeing it as a general data center mobility tool. And I hear some great stories from customers. A lot of people use it for disaster avoidance, which is very timely. If you know a hurricane is coming, proactively move your data center somewhere else. So that's been a solution we've seen a fair amount. We're seeing it for data center migration. For example, when you're moving to a new site, when you acquire a company. I've even used a case where I saw it once where they're using it for whole data center provisioning. They had multiple data centers and they wanted to stamp out all of the footprint in the data center. So just think about it a little bit as SRM5 being a way to do general purpose data center mobility and provisioning as well. So let's move from availability to security. And you can't discuss cloud computing at all without discussing security. And again, vSphere 5 has made a lot of advances in this space. So there's a corollary to our friend the noisy neighbor that I like to think about as well, and this is the nosy neighbor. And I've challenged a few of you in the past to try and say those quickly, one after the other. Noisy neighbor, nosy neighbor. What this is about is worrying about a virtual machine or some common thing sharing your infrastructure, being able to look at what's going on in another virtual machine. And this isolation is at the very core of what we want to do. I should add, this is extremely hard to draw on a whiteboard if you're following along here. So what we want is a way to protect the virtual machine from peeking into anything else on its shared infrastructure. And this could be whether you're in the same company using a private cloud, or you have public clouds with different tenants that are in there. In either case, you need to have this really strongly separated. So we've added a number of capabilities in this latest release, and this is under the brand of things that we've called vShield. Now, anyone who works in security knows that any security solution needs to focus on defense in depth. You can't just have one place where you're stopping things. You need to do it at a variety of layers. And as a recap, the areas in vShield that we focus on start with vShield Endpoint. This is protecting what's inside the virtual machine and allowing you to do the traditional work around virus detection and other capabilities in a more efficient way. The second flavor of vShield is something we have called vShield App. And this is recognizing that most complex IT services are multi-tiered. You want to automatically set up firewalling and port rules between two rungs and ultimately automatically put the firewalls around the access to this service. And then the third layer that we do with vShield is what we call vShield Edge. And this is really recognizing that you have created virtual data centers, very large logical clusters of these machineries, and you traditionally have put a lot of network security and functionality at the edge of your network. We're now enabling you to put this at the virtual edge of your network. And this is where things like security and IDS solutions can go, but it's also where general networking functionality is being provided by partners as we speak. You can put things like load balancing, even hybrid cloud connectivity with VPNs right at this logical edge. So we've worked a lot on these interfaces, and a lot of great customer and partner solutions will be announced today. We've also added some interesting things directly. One example, in the vShield app product, we now have DLP capabilities. So it actually can look at what data is going on between these systems, allow you to recognize things that need to follow certain compliance rules, and ultimately you could pull them together in a pool and treat them separately. I think this will be quite an exciting set of additions that come, and you're going to hear a number of partner announcements on really leveraging this new way of thinking about security in the fully virtualized data center. So I've just taken you through a number of different guarantees. We talked about how an application needs to deploy and have performance guarantees, availability guarantees, and security guarantees. And what I really have enjoyed doing over the years is watching the ways people are beginning to use this. People are very comfortable now that a secure environment can be even more secure when you're running on virtualization, and it can be even more available. So we're seeing it in new areas, and this is something I saw on the floor the other day. This is an ATM machine. I know a number of you have seen this in Las Vegas for other reasons. But what's really cool on the floor is that someone is shipping a virtual ATM machine. Our friends at Diebold have built their new systems to have a virtualization layer in place. This has helped them ship what is certainly a secure and available application, but they're able to do it more easily because it's separated from the hardware. They can control it remotely, and they know that they have the protection in place for the high levels of guarantees they have to provide. I think that's pretty cool. You can go see it in the exchange later if you'd like to. It doesn't work, by the way. You can't get money out of it. Okay, so I've gone through a lot this morning. We've talked about these guarantees, and all of these guarantees and all of these capabilities aren't worth a whole lot if you can't go out and manage them. And I say that the majority of VMware engineers right now are focused on the management space as a whole. But what is this ultimately about? What is management really trying to do? Well, it's trying to provide you efficiency, make people more productive as they're interacting with the environment, and it's also trying to make sure that you avoid errors. It should do things that it knows how to do well. Now, how do you achieve these? Well, it's very simple. You should automate absolutely everything that you can. Put a policy in place and make sure that it gets rolled out. So we have a number of super sessions and a number of breakouts that are going on around the management tools and the beginnings of this cloud suite that Paul talked about yesterday. I'm particularly fired up about the new vCloud Director that we just shipped. VC Operations is really bringing a new way of managing the data center as well. So rather than go into those, I thought I'd wrap up this technical session by sharing the philosophy behind management and show you a sneak preview of where it heads. So stepping back a little bit, how have we thought about management solutions? They've typically had this alert, then respond model. The infrastructure is monitoring what's going on. It sees something that looks weird, and it pages you, sometimes at an inconvenient time. Then it's up to you to go in and manually do something to fix the problem, whether it be availability or performance. But what if we could actually turn this around? I think a truly intelligent infrastructure should bug you a lot less. It should be the thing that automatically responds, and only in the case where it can't do something or it needs to update a person for some reason should it alert you. Again, this is pretty simple to put up on a whiteboard. It's actually very difficult to deliver. But I thought I'd talk about how we're doing it, and then I'm going to show you a demonstration of where we're going with it. I think we're in a very good position at VMware to provide this next form of management, and it's because we're in a great position where we see what's going on. The first phase of any management solution needs to be monitoring everything that's happening out there. So we obviously have great tools for monitoring the infrastructure and have built up a number of tools that are very good at monitoring applications. Things like in-layers, Hyperic, AppSpeed, a number of things that we've been working on. And now we can begin to monitor what's happening at an application layer and marry it quite nicely with the infrastructure layer. That's the second phase of management, is correlation of behaviors. I need to know that when I did this in the network, an application did this. I need to match it up with what's going on in CPUs and on storage. And then the real magic happens once you've monitored and correlated by being able to remediate things automatically. And again, this is the critical feedback loop. If I can correlate what's happening with an application with what's going on with the underlying infrastructure, I can now use things like DRS, storage and network I/O controls, et cetera, to change things so that I fix the problem. And again, my ideal world is to fix the problem and not even bother someone by telling them that I fixed it for them. And you need to be able to do this for existing applications as well as for future applications. And I have to say, when you're able to rewrite applications and use these modern frameworks, you can do interesting scale solutions that are a bit harder to do in the existing world, but we're attacking both of those with our management strategy. So I thought at this point I'd give you a sneak peek at where the management tools are going. This is for this audience only, so please keep it to yourselves. But I'm going to welcome Bruce up to stage now and talk a little bit about where we're headed.
Well, Steve, we talked about our management solutions having more and more automation. And in order to do that, we need more and better information. So we're going to talk about a new technology piece that helps provide that. Start off, we're looking at a pretty typical data center with lots and lots of VMs in here. And as an administrator, I'm responsible for making sure these things all operate well. I'm responsible for capacity planning, backup and recovery, disaster planning. But the truth is, it's pretty hard for me to know what's going on inside of each of these VMs. With our new Navigator technology, however, I get a new piece of information that I've never had before in vSphere, and that is this column right here in the middle called Services. We're able to discover the services that are running inside these VMs. You see SQL Server databases, Apache web servers, IIS web servers, Hyperion, Gemfire. All of these things are discovered agentlessly and automatically. So the neat piece of the technology here is that we don't need to make any changes to the operating system or to the applications in order to discover them. It's completely automatic and there's no agents. So we know what services are running there. But there's another piece of this. We also know, if we look at any one of these individual VMs, how these VMs are related to each other. Again, this is discovered automatically and without any agents. These connections are actually indicated, the connections between the different VMs. You see here I've moused over and I see the port number. So we can use this information to manage these things, do things like set vShield rules and other tasks throughout the vSphere infrastructure. There's also an indication here about the protection status of these things. So you notice that the two SharePoint VMs show the little yellow lightning bolts. That means that they're being protected by Site Recovery Manager, but strangely enough, our SQL Server database is not. As an administrator, this is obviously not something we would want. So I can jump over to Site Recovery, go ahead and configure the protection on that VM. And in a second here, we'll see that when we come back and refresh the view, our SQL Server database is now in that protection group. So the ability to discover what's going on inside these VMs and integrate it throughout vSphere is an important part of our management strategy.
Yeah, so thanks. So again, that was a quick look at how we're able to automatically and agentlessly discover exactly what's in the virtual machines and discover the dependencies that they have between one another. And where this heads is that you can automatically apply things like SRM, or you could use vShield to do particular port coverage based on knowing what's in there. And again, doing it automatically, which is so cool. I thought it'd be also useful to say how we're going to deal with all this information and maybe give us another sneak peek at what we see.
Absolutely. We've also got here a look at an upcoming version of vCenter Operations. Really big dashboard here with lots of nice colors and charts. But the bottom line here is that we're wanting to provide not only the technical information that we've been very good at providing through vSphere, but also business metrics that will matter not only to administrators, but to their bosses and their bosses' bosses. So you see here we've got a pretty nice interface with a lot of information on here, and this is all coming out of vCenter Operations.
Okay, cool. So that's just a very quick sneak peek. You're going to hear a lot more about this as we head forward. Thank you, Bruce. Now, again, I want to recap what we're talking about here with management. What we really want to do is move to a model where things are automatically responding and only alerting us in case of need. And that's what VC Operations has been about. Those dashboards are giving you a bird's eye view of everything, only drawing your attention when it's needed. I think it's also an interesting look at how we're pulling IT metrics together with business metrics all in one place. And this is really where the world is headed. And they look at the different decisions that IT needs to make. And this is exactly what you should expect from a well-managed, intelligent virtual infrastructure. So I've shown a lot this morning, and what's really cool about almost everything I've shown here, that it's real, it's being in use, and a lot of it is being used right there in the hands-on labs that people are using, all running out of a public cloud. And as I opened up earlier on with the great quote from our engineers, it should just work, and it should just work well. And nowhere is better seen in this. I haven't heard yet how well we're doing, but I know we're on target to smash the record for the size of these labs. And again, they're all running on these technologies, proving out what they can do. And speaking of these labs, I had a great quotation as I was going down the Palazzo elevator on the way over. And it was a gentleman who had just come back as I was going down to get coffee. He had done the 6 a.m. line to get into the labs. And I asked, that's pretty serious. You're in lab that early. couldn't you take this anytime? And he said, no, I actually like taking it when there are other people in the lab that are as passionate as I am. And I thought that was so cool, that it's about not just the technology, but the people that we're working with. And that really is a good way to bring us back to where we started the whole thing. It's about the services and it's about the people. And this is exactly where we started. We're in one of the biggest transitions around technology that certainly many of us have ever been in. And it changes us from a world of focusing on individual servers and individual desktops that access them to really thinking about services and people. And today we've explored how VMware and our partners are enabling this transition. But ultimately it's really about everyone in this room, and I get so energized by the passion and some of the crazy things that go on here by people who really care about making this change happen. And that's ultimately what I think the theme of this conference was about. It's about your cloud and stepping out and owning it and going out there and doing the things you can do with this technology. So with that, I thank you very much, and I hope you have a great VMworld.